Hi, this is Louis. Today I'm going to show you the best way to do a FaceTime photoshoot. In case you're not familiar with FaceTime Photoshoots, it's basically doing a photoshoot while being on a video call with your model. Instead of your camera, you're using your phone and you're doing screenshots to capture the image. The photographer that inspired me to give it a try is an amazing Italian photographer called Alessio Albi. I decided to take this not only as a challenge, but also as an opportunity to reach out to some models that are very far away. But my main idea behind this was to show how creative people can get together to create something amazing, even though we are on the other side of the world. Before we get into how I got the images, I did wanted to share my 5 experiences I had with FaceTime Photoshoots so you can learn some tips and tricks. But if you want to skip right to it, you can just follow the time link on the description. But if you're sticking around, then here we go. I'm in El Paso, Texas, and my first FaceTime shoot was with Valentina, who is actually in Ukraine. So the time difference was kind of interesting. For her, it was early morning, and for me, it was around 11 p.m. I didn't know what to expect, but I actually ended up loving the photo shoot. The first problem I encountered was slow internet connection. The image would start getting a little choppy and pixelated, but what worked was to just hang up and try the call again, and then the connection would be restored. And for some reason, it would go back to normal, and that's what helped us a lot, and that made it work. From there, I went all the way to Cape Town, South Africa, with Esmeralda, who is not only one of the models that I admire the most, but one of the most down-to-earth persons that I know. She had an amazing view from her apartment, so we were able to not only do indoor shots, but also exterior shots. And I love that we were able to shoot during sunset as well. The next trip was to New Zealand with my friend Mara. I had the opportunity to shoot with her in person in Albuquerque, New Mexico. So I thought that this was a good time to catch up and team up again. The challenge in this shoot was that outside it was super windy. So we started doing some pictures indoors, but then we actually decided to venture out and shoot outdoors. She had this basket hanging outside, and that ended up being our stabilizer or tripod. So it was kind of challenging. The hair was all over her face, and then the camera was actually swinging and moving, but we made it work. Somehow we made it work. On the last setup of that photo shoot, we were trying to shoot by another window, but the connection started to get lost, so we couldn't finish that last setup. But we had done already really amazing photos, so we were happy with it. From there, I had a shoot in Manila, Philippines with Gabi, who is actually a Venezuelan model that I was supposed to do a photo shoot in person in my last trip to Mexico City, but I actually missed her by probably a week or so. So again, I also found this a good opportunity to team up, get together, and do something cool. The challenge here, as in most cases, was the limited space we had available. But she was moving furniture around, making sure I would get the right angle, the composition and everything, the lighting, and that was super helpful. And the last FaceTime shoot of this series I did was in Tokyo, Japan with Hitomi. She was super helpful, trying to show me the best places to do the shoot. The photo shoot was going super well, but I noticed the image quality started to fail. The images looked very blurry. I started to get very worried and a little sad actually. He told me he had an amazing idea. Someone was actually holding the phone on some of the shots, and she had this idea to have that person actually do a snapshot or screenshot on her phone and then just send me the shots. And that was actually what saved the shoot. Ended up working so well that we actually decided to do the first outfit again. That saved the day and it worked perfectly. I want to take this moment to thank all the models. You are the stars of these photo shoots. I couldn't have done it without you. So thank you very much again. You have to pay attention on both your cameras, the selfie camera and I don't know, how do you call it? I'm gonna call this the front camera and I'm gonna call this the selfie camera. I noticed using the selfie camera would give you more light, but the downside was that the whites would be blown out. I did ended up using that camera the most. The model can see herself and she can know when she's in the shot or if the phone is a little crooked or anything. Then on the other camera, what I noticed is that when the image was too bright, you wouldn't lose your highlights, but the image in general would be darker. So on most of the shots, I ended up doing some test shots to see which one worked better for each lighting situation. I would suggest you start your FaceTime call through your computer. It's very simple to do a screenshot. The shortcut is Command-Shift-3. For a while, it does get a little tired, but you'll be okay. Don't worry. I want to show you the difference in the file size from doing a screen capture on my phone, a screen capture on my laptop, and a screen capture from the iMac. So right there, you can see the image in the background was a screenshot taken on my iMac. And if you compare it with the image from my phone and the image from my laptop, you can see there's a size difference. And in this case, I want to have the biggest image possible. The other option is to take a picture through FaceTime, but the files are very small. They're like 500K. If you're having a slow internet connection and your images appear to be very blurry, you can start taking your screenshots through FaceTime and it's gonna send you a picture that was captured through your model's phone, and then you just receive that image. I did use it, but not that much. I always ended up going back to my screenshots taken on my computer, bigger file size, and I had more information to work with. The first step I did once I had my images was to import them into Lightroom. Obviously, you can do this in Capture One or just open them directly on Photoshop and start editing. I did have to crop my images because I was shooting on vertical mode and had a lot of space on the side that I needed to get rid of. So in Lightroom, it's super simple to crop all the images very quick. I would just crop one image, and then here in Lightroom, you can just do a copy and paste to the rest of them, and then they're all cropped the same. So it's super easy and quick. Once I had my pre-selection ready, I started doing some editing. And I like to start playing with my temperature to see how it affects my image. In this case, I think I'm just gonna move it slightly to the cool tones just to clean up the whites. And then I'm gonna bring the highlights and the whites considerably low so I can recover some of that information in the highlights. And then also on the blacks, I'm gonna increase those to have a little more contrast. From there, I also lowered the texture and clarity, just a little touch. And on my sharpening, I went very high for what I usually do. So I did around 60, but also adding some noise reduction. And added a little bit of vibrance as well to make the colors pop. And I think that's it. I was very happy with this image. I can show you the before and after here. Once I have my first image ready, I like to copy and paste all the settings to the rest of my images. And from there, depending if there was some light difference, I will tweak it a little bit. And here I started just retouching some little details with my patch tool. It's obviously not a beauty shot where you have to dodge and burn for an hour and work on all the little details. This was a very quick edit. One thing I used to help me do everything fast was a skin smoothing filter called Portraiture. I always use it in the lowest level, and most of the times I will even lower the opacity of that layer. For these images, however, I did use the lower setting on the filter, and I left the layer opacity at 100%. I used a layer mask to only have the filter on the spots I wanted to have them. And here you can see the color scheme that I'm going for. It's very basic. It's just using complementary colors. In this case, purple and yellow. But I like to do it very, very subtle. For this image, I used a soft light blending mode. And then I lowered the opacity at about 10-15%. Sometimes I do like to go back to my image and see if I did too little or too much, especially too much. One thing that was distracting me was a piece of furniture on the lower left side of the image. So I did a simple selection with my pen tool. And then once I had that ready, I used the smudge tool so I could extend the background all the way down. Once I had that ready, I used another filter. I went to add that texture and add a little more density into the skin tones. So I had a setting here that I had been working with, lowered the exposure even more, but then I moved the whites up a little bit to recover some of the highlights that I would be losing while lowering the exposure. And here you can see the before and after. You can see how there's more color density in the image, more contrast, and of course the grain, which is the main reason why I'm using this filter. But you can see all the texture you have there. I think that gives it like I don't know if a filmy look, but like a Polaroid kind of look. Okay, so that was pretty much it. From here, I would just crop it since I'm gonna use these images in Instagram. I modified the aspect ratio. And on this series of images, I did leave a white space on the sides. Again, to give it that Polaroid look to it. Also, I added a curves adjustment layer. I like to use the linear contrast and then lower its opacity to give the image a little more punch. As you can see, the FaceTime Photoshoot can be something super simple, but at the same time, a little tricky. I hope you decide to give this a try, and don't forget to share your images to see what you came up with. If you like this video, please like and subscribe. This is Luis Cardenas, and until next time, gracias.